Is my screen visible? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay. One topic that is remaining is the success factors and uh, failures of ERP. Okay. So this is another topic. Okay. The first one is complete focus on business requirements. So, what are the factors that are affecting the success of ERP? That is the next topic. So, first one is complete focus on business requirements. So, what is written here? You can see here the priority should be focused on effective running of a business, and once you have defined the needs properly, you can involve in a much more effective ERP software selection, and it will lead to the accurate running of your business operation. So complete a focus on business requirements. So how did we first state the business requirements? So business requirements was first stated when we are getting the customer demand. So from on the basis of customer demand, we were creating some objectives, right? So based on that objective, or that is the said requirement here. So we are mentioning business requirement here, and the business requirement that is involved here is nothing but the objective that we have classified under the customer demand, or it is the customer requirement. Okay, and we are setting such business requirements as our objective, and we are focusing on that requirements itself. So we are not focusing on any other type of functions, but the functions mentioned by the customer. Maybe there will be multiple function in the object itself, but these functions are always classified on basis of customer demand. So only on the basis of customer demand do we set these business requirements, and we are focusing our work on that business requirements only. So what happens if we focus on other requirements? So if you are going for other requirement, or if you are focusing on other requirements, the problem is nothing but we do not get an optimized system, or we will always incur more cost. So this is ineffective. So for an ERP to successfully run, or an ERP is done for increasing the profit, right? So if you are not creating a focus for that business requirement, you are focusing on other requirements, then obviously the procedures or the product that is finished will not be an ERP based product. Okay, it is not optimized, and the cost always will be higher, and hence we have to only focus on the business requirements. So that is one of the factors to ensure the success of ERP. Second one is selection of software. Okay, we have to select software. So always uh, the ERP is done on the basis of internet, right? It is an online method, and that method can help to create a more optimized method faster than a individual personal. Okay, that is one of the main thing. But we are using various softwares in ERP. Okay, we are using various softwares, and some softwares will be necessary, but others may not be necessary. Okay, the function may be same. The software may be sorting out the pattern or finding out the pattern, and you can implement certain things. So that is the function of software in an ERP system, right? And after sorting out or doing such operations, and these operations can be handled by a multiple number of apps. Okay, so one example is nothing but you all are using one scanner this one, right? For making PDF. So you can click on the camera and the image can be processed into a PDF, right? And such softwares or such apps or Tab Scanner, Cam Scanner, Adobe Scan, etc. can be used, right? And depending on the purpose only. So or the purpose is always to create PDF, right? And for that purpose itself, multiple number of apps is there, right? In the same way, in ERP system also, for each type of operation, maybe for sorting out or eliminating the waste or identifying the waste, each and everything there is a type of program or app present inside ERP. And for that particular function, we have to use the software or an app that is more preferable to create an optimized operation only. Okay, so you have to choose a perfect software for the ERP system you are defining. So what kind of ERP system you have to obtain, depending upon that, the software is selected. So for each operation, multiple number of softwares are there, but we are only choosing the correct one. If you are choosing a wrong one, it will always create a non-optimized, or the flow will not be correct, or you will incur more cost. Okay, such a process is not desirable. Hence, we are we have to always select the apt or the best software for that ERP system. Then only you can ensure the success of ERP. So the second one was selection of software. Next comes the scope of the project. Okay, what is the scope of the project? Scope is nothing but we are always creating the ERP system on basis of a forecast. So ERP is implemented also for that forecast to happen in a most optimized manner, right? So we have to always create the products on basis of this forecast once the ERP system is implemented. Before it is implemented, you are running, you have so many processes, and that process is carried out to create the product. But when you are implementing an ERP system, you are optimizing the procedure or the process there, and then we are creating the product. Okay, now the scope of the project can always change, such as when a technological update is coming, or a technological feature is coming, or any product or component gets failed, then it has to be replaced, right? So such is the scope of the project. So the project can be always modified. So it is that modification can happen in a future date. Not to, it does not have to occur at the present, but it can occur at the future date. Okay, so um, we are designing the ERP system so that the functions or the operations that are being carried out is optimized, and it can also include any technological updates to a certain extent. A huge technological update cannot be implemented in an ERP system because we have to change the complete ERP system. But we are always creating an ERP system which can sufficiently hold a small uh, amount of changes in the technological changes in the project, and that is included in the project. So an ERP system with a scope or a ability to handle a small amount of change in an optimized manner is having greater success. Okay, that is what scope of the project is mentioned here, and that scope is also another success factor of ERP. Okay, next one is ROI. So these are nothing but revolutionary ideas. That is ROI. Uh, they are handled to, okay, these are not, it is written here, but these are revolutionary. Okay, there is a mistake here. These are revolutionary or even fresh ideas, but it should be handled carefully to implement the ERP system and to make profits. And additionally, it is written, for a business, the performance targets, models, deadlines, etc., should be measured carefully, since it directly affects the profit of a business. So always I have told you, when you are implementing a huge technological leap or a huge technological idea, the ERP system completely fails, right? So a fresh idea, okay, a revolutionary or a fresh idea is always a new thing, right? It is not being used by the company at present, but it is different. So once implemented into it, we an ERP system is always uh, present to create more profits. Okay, so when you are implementing a new idea or a revolutionary idea, obviously it is not ERP, or it is not using that ERP system, right? We are always creating an idea, and we are not looking at any other factors. We are only looking at the output or the advantages of that idea when implemented into our operation or implemented in the product. This is what is a revolutionary idea means. Okay, so if you are implementing such an idea in the system, the ERP system will have some changes because it is a forecast system. We have already optimized it for the previous idea or the previous processes and all. We are using the ERP system. So when a fresh idea comes into process, it will always disturb the ERP system, current ERP system used in the industry. So we have to create or to implement that idea in the system, we have to look or measure at the idea that is present, and that is then implemented into the ERP system carefully, or else we will not make that particular profit, or our complete operation will be, we have to provide more expense for that idea to take place. Okay, that is the problem of fresh ideas. So we have to, so that also affects the success of ERP. So a revolutionary idea, okay, revolutionary idea or a fresh idea itself, when implemented to the ERP system, should be carefully implemented, or else it will fail, or the ERP system will fail. Okay, so that is ROI, which is a revolutionary idea. Okay, next one is budget. Budget uh, happens, budget is based on the capital that is needed for the company to run. Okay, so what was capital? Capital, I have earlier mentioned that it was nothing but the what do you say, it is the capital is the amount that is used for the industry's running, right? So it is first used for the creation of the industrial components, or the industrial personnel, etc., can be used in the capital, right? Building of the company or the industry or the machines related to it, etc., are coming used with this budget. Okay, we are generating a convincing budget for that, and additionally the profits that is incurred from the production or during the sales uh, of the product, we will be getting some profits, right? And this profit is then included into the capital. So we have to take that profit fund for further operations or further facilities or for maintenance, for daily wages, for um, salaries for various personnel. So these are all coming under the budget. Okay, even in ERP system, the budget is used for the softwares that are present, or the hardwares that we are using, such as computer systems, the LAN cables, modems, routers, etc. Okay, then comes the staff resources for that. So basically, the staff resources included in the ERP system are the analysts, right? The analysts or the engineers that are present for analyzing the data that is compiled at the data warehouse or the common system. Okay, so the budget is used in the ERP system for that also. So completely overall, it is known as the budget, and that budget also can affect the ERP system. So if you have a sufficient budget only, then can you implement the ERP system. So ERP system was too expensive, right? We have looked at the advantages and disadvantages of using ERP system, and we have already seen that ERP system is an expensive process. So it is not implemented in smaller companies, and always the uh, the money or the cost of an ERP system is very high, and hence we must always have a budget or a higher budget in the company present, or a higher capital must be present for ERP to run. So once implemented, the ERP system will be effective to provide more profit, but implementing the ERP system is a tedious process and an expensive process, and hence budget also plays an important role for the success of ERP. So if there is no sufficient budget present, then the ERP system will fail. Okay, then you can't run that ERP system. That is why it is not being used in smaller companies, but because of the budget present in the higher companies or multinational companies, they always prefer the ERP project to run. So budget is another factor that is affecting the success of ERP. Next is the failure factors. So what are some of the factors that affect the failure of ERP? First one is first one is the lack of knowledge. So obviously, I have told you earlier, the person, if there is a single personnel, instead of using a personalized ERP, so I have already explained about personalized ERP, which was the ERP system that is implemented in each department or done by an individual person. So these are personalized ERP that is coming under an ERP trend. So to implement ERP much more faster, we are using personalized ERP. Okay, instead of personalized ERP, think of the ERP I have earlier mentioned. ERP in which only one personnel is analyzing the data from all the department, or a particular department or an ERP department with some personnels looking at all the huge data. Okay, such a pers such a such a okay such a okay. Is it audible?
Sir.
Okay, 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 okay. Okay, is my screen visible?
Sir.
Okay, okay. No, we are discussing about the lack of knowledge. So it is written here. You can observe here that if the staff is not educated and up to date about the functioning of ERP system, then obviously there will be a failure occurring in ERP system. So there are both condition, education and ERP system. So when I earlier mentioned, if a single personnel is handling all the data and that person does not understand or does not have a clue about the operations that are being carried out in the industry, then he is not having sufficient education on basis to run the ERP system. So that is coming under not educated. Then up to date about the ERP system. So that happens when the ERP system is already implemented in the when the ERP system is already implemented in the industry. So this happens when there is a change in management. So I have already mentioned something known as a change in management. So that happens when a change occurs with the managing committee or the committee or the person that owns the industry. When they changes, they have another set of idea for the ERP system, right? That occurs in the change in management. And additionally, maybe a new personnel may be present for handling the ERP system when there is a change in management. So when such a person comes into the industry, he has to become familiarized with the ERP system inside the industry, or else, or if he is not up to date about that functioning, then obviously the ERP system fails. Okay, so if you are implementing it, you must always uh, look, or you must always verify if the ERP system is functioning accordingly. So one of the ways to check that is the amount of productivity or the amount of profits incurred, and if there is any changes with the profit incurred during the month. Basically, when there is a less amount of profit, then you can always find out that there will be a problem with that. Okay, so once that occurs, then it will fail. Okay, so that is what is the summary here. So a lack of knowledge always contributes to the failure of ERP system. Next one is the absence of enough management commitment. Absence of enough management commitment. So one such uh, one such example is nothing but when there is a change in management occurring, there will be obviously sometimes a new personnel placed in the ERP system. So the ERP system is always tedious process, right? There is a huge amount of data we have to analyze it, and then we have to create the ERP system, right? So uh, if there is no sufficient management commitment, or the management itself decides that then ERP system must be handled there. So the basic advantage of an ERP system is always it will create more profits, which is beneficial for the management side. It is not beneficial for the workers, but it is beneficial for the executives. We have already mentioned that or looked at that during studying the myths of ERP, and it will always prove effective for the management, right? But due to the huge amount of ERP research to be done or the ERP system to be implemented, some companies may drop the ERP procedure, right? So that is because the management loses interest in the ERP system because of the huge amount of data or the period it takes to implement it, or because of the cost. These are some of the factors why the management does not risk on ERP. Okay, that is why huge multinational companies only focus on ERP operations. So if there is no sufficient management commitment, obviously the ERP system fails, and the person responsible or the personnel or the department responsible for the ERP system must also get that support from the management to run the ERP system effectively, or else it will fail. So absence of enough management commitment is one of the reasons for failures in the ERP system. Next comes insufficient resources. So insufficient resources. So we have already discussed about the resources inside an enterprise or inside the industry. So the resources from raw materials, then personnel, the equipment, the tools used, inventory, the packaged products, the transportation products. These are all the resources under the industry, right? So uh, any such insufficiency or insufficiency, there is no sufficient raw materials present, or there is no sufficient equipments present, or there is no sufficient machines present, there is no sufficient personals present. Any such insufficiency always contributes to the failures of ERP system. So the ERP system is an optimized system in which it will term that for a work maybe 10 people is required and we only have an 8 individual, then obviously the ERP system fails there. So the ERP system, according to the ERP system, we are finding out that for the optimized function and the increased productivity and to obtain increased profits, we must have 10 people. If the ERP system has found out, or by analyzing the data from the data warehouse, we are obtaining that 10 people has to be done that work to obtain more productivity or more profit, then sufficient 10 people must be there, or else it will increase the load of the individuals. Suppose if there is only 8 individuals present, and that will sufficiently increase the load of the 8 individuals, thereby failing the ERP system. So there will be a problem in the ERP system. So this is because this type of so with the ERP system, it is mentioned 10 and we are only hiring 8 individuals. This is because maybe there is a shortage of budget in the company. So ERP system itself is an expensive process, and to reduce the cost and increase the profit, companies follow one principle in which they will fire the employees, or the employees that is not up to the mark, and reduce the number of employees inside the industry. Okay, and once that happens, they obviously can get profit because they are not paying such individuals, right? So there will be a increase in profit required according to the individuals they have fired. Okay, so that is one of the way. But the problem here is nothing but for an ERP system to run, it will always fail. That is the insufficient resources. This is because there is a shortage of budget. So a shortage of budget obviously was mentioned in the success factors, right? And if there is no sufficient budget, it will fail. So that is the same thing that is coming here, that is insufficient resources. So if there is no sufficient resources, then the ERP system will fail. Next one is wide customization. So what is written here, you can look here. When you widely customize an ERP installation, you not only enhance time and prices, but also installing the next publication of ERP software, which is highly tough and expensive. So I have mentioned earlier, when you are implementing an ERP system, it is implemented in such a way that it can hold a small amount of changes, or it can hold a small amount of technological updates. Okay, that is what is meant by wide customization. So in a customization, we are changing, right? We are customizing it for an optimized method. So ERP system must be in such a way that it can hold such changes. Very high changes will uh, very high customization cannot be handled because of its expensiveness and the toughness in which the data has to be analyzed, right? So in an ERP, you must have sufficient ways to hold these changes that is created there. That is what is known as wide customization. If there is no such a provision present, then we have to redesign the ERP system entirely, and that change can be very hard to handle, and also it can be an expensive process. That is why we are customizing the ERP so that it can hold some changes and it does not affect the processes that is running in the company. So that is coming under wide customization. And the last one is unrealistic expectations. So unrealistic expectation, we can look here. ERP systems can create intense productivity if effectively implemented. The management and workers must be aware of the advantages to reduce any over expectations. So, the basis of an ERP system is always to increase productivity. So, if you have increased productivity, then you will obviously get more profits. That is the vision there. Okay, the main vision there, or the company that puts or implements the ERP system uh, always have or has a vision that uh, to increase productivity and incur more profit. That is what is done here, and we must always look at that a particular vision. We can't obtain any other method. ERP system is only for the increase the productivity and the profit. That is why we are implementing ERP system, not for any other factors. Maybe you want to create a more budget, or you want to provide more salaries, or you have to create more persons. That is not determined by an ERP system. ERP system creates an operation or a procedure in which we can increase the productivity and the profit. That is the only aim of ERP system, and the rest of the things we have learned in earlier modules, like using 5S system or Kanban system. Okay, these are other systems that can enhance the productivity. It does not and it is not related with the ERP. Okay, that is what is coming under the ERP system. That is what is mentioned here by unrealistic expectations. So any other expectations apart from productivity and profit is not related with the ERP system. And if you are making such an expectation, then obviously the ERP system fails. So you can't implement any other functions into the ERP system than which can affect the productivity and the profit. Okay, so these are all the failure factors of ERP system. So I'll wind up the class today. Next is the attendance.